Bon après-midi.
Good afternoon. My name is Eddie Gillis, and I'll be your host today.
My name is Eddie Gillis, and I'm the Professional Institute's Chief Operating Officer and Executive Secretary. I'll be your host for this event, our very first town hall using Facebook Live. So it's not only the people in this room, but a great many members across Canada who are with us today. Bienvenue tout le monde, et merci d'être venu.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks for coming.
Been in a PIPS town hall before, I'd like to tell you a little about how we're going to proceed. We'll start with our president, Debi, updating us on where we are on Phoenix, a truly disastrous pay system that has seriously impacted the lives of hundreds of thousands of public service employees just like yourselves. Debi will tell you about what we believe the solution is to Phoenix, an alternative pay system developed and implemented by public service professionals. You'll then have an opportunity to ask questions or comment on topics related to this part of the discussion. Vous aurez alors l'occasion de
You'll then have an opportunity to ask questions or comment on topics related to this part of the discussion.
After that, for a few minutes, Debi will outline our plan for achieving success, which we define as making sure that PIPS members are in the driver's seat and that the advice they bring as professionals is valued.
After that, for a few minutes, Debi will outline our plan for achieving success, which we define as making sure that this time PIPS members will have their advice valued.
Time today, and I expect that many of you will have questions for Debi. I'd like to ask you to keep them short and concise so we can get in as many as we can. Debi et moi parlons français.
Are fluent in French, so don't hesitate in expressing your questions in either language.
I'd like to introduce you to our president. Please welcome Debi Daviau.
Thank you, Eddie, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Debi Daviau, and I am the proud president of the Professional Institute. Bonjour, mon nom est Debi.
Good afternoon. My name is Debi Daviau, and I'm the proud president of the Professional Institute.
See so many of you here today, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to join us. We have a great crowd here in Ottawa, and we have watch parties in Bathurst, Courcelette, Dorval, Halifax, Mascouche, Matane, Montreal, Quebec City, Toronto, and Winnipeg. Wow. We've gathered together today to discuss what has been the most important challenge facing not only PIPS members, but the entire Canadian public service right now. I'm talking, of course, about Phoenix and what we're going to do about it. We were strong in our call to Nix Phoenix, and we were successful. But of course, there is more to do, and that's why we're here today. After 2 years of continued institute pressure, the government has finally realized that our members and all public servants deserve better. It's time to Nix Phoenix. It's time to start afresh. In February, the latest federal budget committed $430 million to stabilize Phoenix. At this point, the system has had around $1 billion poured into it. So Phoenix is obviously not fit for the job. Also in the budget, we saw a glimmer of hope. The government committed $16 million to investigate options towards bringing of an alternative pay system to replace Phoenix. We're here because we need to keep up the momentum. We need a new system, we need a solution, and we need it quickly. We've been through 2 years of not being paid properly, and they're potentially asking us to wait another 6 years. The answer can only be absolutely no. We will not wait that long. Basically, and I won't mince words here, the Phoenix fiasco is a direct result of wholesale contracting out. Choosing to completely bypass the skills and know-how of our professional public service is how we got into this mess.
The government's main mistake is that it did not assign the development of a new system that works at the Canadian public service, the best in the world.
Who did the previous government turn to a few years ago to modernize the public pay system? I know you know this, but I'll name names anyways. IBM. The very same IBM that failed to deliver a functional pay system to the government of Queensland and Australia a decade ago. It took about $1 billion to fix it, and it took almost 8 years to do it. Le gouvernement précédent.
The previous government is also partly to blame for this fiasco. First, it trashed a pay system developed by public servants that had worked well for decades. Then it let go hundreds of compensation advisors in order to be efficient, to balance the budget. But of course, there were no savings for ratepayers.
Unfortunately, the current government decided to proceed with launching the system, warts and all, with the results that we know today. Hundreds of thousands of cases open, no pay, wrong pay, underpaid, overpaid, no retro pay, and now a myriad of tax problems. It's caused havoc in our members' finances. I don't have to tell anyone in this room what a mess we're in. Our commitment is to be the leader when it comes to building a new system. A new system will only work if unions are engaged in its development from the beginning. You can be sure that we will work hard to put PIPS members in the driver's seat, proposing a new way forward and to be part of the solution. We need to ensure the government is looking at every option available and that our IT community is engaged at every stage. Government employees need a system that pays you accurately, on time, every time, and that won't run into massive delays or cost overruns. And based on the Phoenix experience, I think all of us here can agree that the private sector is simply not able to deliver that alone. If it could, Phoenix would be working today. If you're ready to have your pay issues fixed sooner than the government has promised, visit our website, action.pips.ca/Nix Phoenix, and email the working group on Phoenix to tell them how you feel. Nous sommes ici aujourd'hui pour discuter de ce nouveau.
We're here today to discuss this new system, what it will look like, who will develop it, and how we will get there.
I've already told you how I feel about it. At this point, I'd like to hear from you and start to take a few questions. Over to you, Eddie.
Thank you, Debbie.
Merci, Debi. Avant de commencer.
That we're being broadcast live on the web via Facebook, that we're recording the proceedings, and that some media representatives have joined us today. We'll now be taking some of your questions. Let's just sit down for the first one from a watch party. First question comes from a watch party in Winnipeg. Jay asks, I read a news story the other day about another union pressuring the government for damages related to Phoenix. I haven't heard too much about our position. What's our approach?
I think it's really important to note that since this fiasco started, all of the federal public servants unions have been working together. Obviously, we're just stronger when we're together. We're better together. And we understood that from the start. So all of the damages negotiations that are underway to try to get people compensated for the pain and suffering that they've had for the past 2 years and potentially for many years to come, all of those negotiations are happening together. We are at the table and we're negotiating, hoping to negotiate fair settlements for members so that you don't have to be in the trenches fighting, but rather we're there doing it for you.
Excellent. Thanks, Debbie. Let's move to the audience here in Ottawa. Who's got a question? Question right here. We've got some.
Okay, Mark Walton. One second, Mark. We'll get you a microphone.
I'll ask you to stand up when you have a question and to wait for the microphone, please. Oops.
Okay, so I'm Mark Walton, AV Group Steward for NCR and PSPC. Okay, and two things, not really questions, but suggestions actually. One is for those people working outside the National Capital Region. In any of your correspondence with Phoenix to all the Carl Qualtros, the Marie LeMays and so on, you should also be copying whoever's the appropriate PSPC Regional Director General for our region. Those RDGs are equivalent to ADMs for their regions. I posted the names and contact information in the Facebook group, this group Federal Public Servants Burned. Okay, and the second thing is a new chant I came up with the last rally. Fix schmix, we want Phoenix next.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. I think it's also important to note not just emailing management, but also make sure you're emailing your MPs. As I mentioned, we do have a campaign underway, so don't hesitate to log on to our action site and send your MP an email as well. Those obviously apply a lot of pressure, and when we get at the table with your MPs, we look a lot more credible because of those emails you're sending in. So thank you for that, Mark.
Thank you, Debbie. Do we have another question in the audience? One right here, if you'd stand up and just wait for a microphone.
There was one at the back here.
Oh, sorry. We'll do you next. No, we'll do you now.
Hi, thank you. My name is Gabriel. I'm just really concerned about cost. Before Phoenix, I would maybe spend on a maximum month, 10 minutes a month doing payroll issues. Since this mess began, I've spent God knows how many hours on Phoenix, trying to resolve issues for my team, for myself, for others. Is this cost being captured somewhere? Because Phoenix is getting in my way of doing my job. Are we expected to continue to just, spend time on this for the next 6 years? We must be looking at millions.
Yeah, for sure the government has already admitted, although we thought it some time ago, that they've spent over $1 billion, and that doesn't actually include the time of managers such as yourself. It also doesn't include the time and resources that we as a union have had to sink into this problem to try to help mitigate the disaster for our members. If anybody's tracking the costs, it's the Auditor General, so he did a pretty good job of looking at the initial costs, and from what I understand, the next report that's coming out will have further looking into the costs and where this money is being spent. It's still not going to include, obviously, the impact that it's had on our own organization, but we've had to take some money from places that we were hoping to do some progressive things and put it into resources to help our members fix Phoenix. And I know that our managers, many of our members are managers in the workplace, spending countless hours trying to help people. And it's only going to take more and more. So, I do believe that at one point there will be a full tracking and reporting of what this whole fiasco has cost. But I do want to remind you that a lot of the money that's being sunk in now is required. No matter whether we get a new software or not, we still need more compensation advisors. We still need more training. We still need the processes to be clear for people. And we need more and more resources in departments to help people calculate and figure out what they're owed.
I could simply add, as the senior manager at PIPS, that we've poured enormous resources into addressing the problems our members have around Phoenix, especially in our mobilization group, but also in our labor relations group. So the comment is valid both for the employer and for the union and staff. Okay, we had a question right over here, and we've got a microphone. If you could stand up, please.
Hello, my name is Luc Patnaud. I'm a CS, and I'm just wondering, as I was younger, and I used to go to work, and one day my boss told me, oh, there's no money this week, I'm gonna pay you next week, And so you go back to work next week, and again, oh, well, you'll have to wait another week. Well, at that point in time, I knew I had to quit my job. Now, I'm just wondering what type of actual pressure we can put on the government to become more active in our demands.
Yeah, I mean, certainly at the point at which PIPS becomes involved in this, a lot of really dire decisions have been taken over a long period of time. And in our view, the system, the software, Phoenix, was too far gone. And so, and that's something that's been validated by our members and by our members' IT workers who now work on Phoenix, that system simply can't be fixed. That being said, it's the only system they've got. And so you can apply whatever pressure you want. If there's no system to do what the will of government is to do, you can't get the paychecks out of it. And so this is why we've been focused for some time now on ensuring that there is an alternative way to pay people. We understand that We are some time away from a steady state, if you will, where public servants can expect to be paid. In the meantime, we've made sure that we've advocated for a bunch of interim measures. So, you know, extended priority and emergency pay. PIPS even started up its own loans program when people were falling through the cracks on the government's priorities. We've helped students. We've identified ways to deal with critical priority issues, people who are in financial hardship, you know, people who are impacted more than others, and hopefully we're now in a position to deal with the absolute worst of these situations. But you know, the missing actings, you know, the not being able to accept a promotion, people putting off their retiring or having children, those are all terrible issues that, you know, it's the reality we're facing today, and until we get a new system to pay people properly, we're simply not going to be able to apply the pressure we need to get people paid.
I think we have time for one more question.
Debbie, you mentioned the Queensland health situation. They had a public inquiry there that brought down the government. Are we pushing towards having a public inquiry as well?
For sure. I think the public inquiry was already underway. I mean, certainly through the Auditor General's office, the Controller General, the Treasury Board, there's been a number of assessments done both externally and internally at this point. In fact, we even worked with government on trying to get to the root cause, if you will. I think what hasn't been done yet is the people responsible, the managers who decided to go ahead with this project despite knowing what all the risks would be, have not necessarily been brought to account. And that's certainly something that we would hope to see, but obviously it's not our focus, because our focus today is getting people paid, and it can't be anything other than that, because obviously this is the most critical issue our members have faced, certainly in my history in the union, and maybe ever.
Well, thank you, Debbie. Music. We'll have time for more questions a little later, but right now, I'd like to move to the second half of this piece, in that I'd like to ask Debbie to tell us about everything PIPS has been doing to implement the campaign plan to make sure that we're the ones who build the new system. Debbie?
Thank you, Eddie. So far, we've talked about how we got here and how we need a new system quickly. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to summarize for you what we as a union have done to help our members and how we can continue to move forward. First of all, we're actively mobilizing our members to take direct action on Phoenix Online, in answer to your question. Je suis très fière de...
I am very proud to see that over 10,000 of our members have answered our call and have taken the time to send an email to the ministers in charge of Phoenix.
Hundreds, even some of you here today in the room, have been trained to lead lunch and learn sessions on getting involved in the Nix Phoenix campaign. Second, we want compensation, including damages and interest, for all public servants who were impacted by the Phoenix fiasco. Third, we're advocating for more pay staff, not only in the Miramichi Pay Center, but in departments and agencies. We want people who you can talk to resolve your pay issues back in the workplaces. Fourth, we're going to continue to fight to ensure that the effects of Phoenix are mitigated until we can get a new system. We'll help our members through our dedicated stewards, our consultation teams, and staff. Better access to emergency and priority pay, an end to regressive clawbacks of overpayments, and coverage for all out-of-pocket expenses will remain our priorities. Fifth, to keep things on the front burner, we have a grievance campaign, and we filed policy grievances on the widespread problems like retro pay. Please talk to your local steward about it. This fiasco has been a moving target, and we're working to address it. Our team has been adjusting and reacting really as quickly as we can. We know we need a new system, and we'll look for solutions to move us there quickly.
As you can see, it is a detailed plan, a good plan, that is bearing fruits already. If you have any questions about this plan, I would be pleased to answer them.
Additional ideas on how together we can fight for a new pay system, it would be great to hear from you. Eddie?
Thank you, Debbie. That's an ambitious plan, but we have the resources and the willpower to get it done. Let's have a seat and do another question from our watch parties. This one's from Montreal, Mélanie. Pourquoi ne pouvons-nous pas simplement...
Why can't we just simply use the PeopleSoft, or the system that we had before Phoenix? The system worked and was managed by our members.
Très bonne question. Simplement...
Excellent question. It's just that the government has reduced the number of professionals that were there to manage this whole system. Not just IT professionals, but also the resource or the pay resource people. Now we don't really have the new infrastructure to support that older system, pay system. But if we look at other ways to use the systems that we have today in order to pay people immediately, and then we can work together to work on a new system, a new software for the future. And maybe the older system would be one of the systems. There is a system at the Canada Revenue Agency which can actually pay their members, 40,000 civil servants. All we need to do is to make some changes in order to ensure that the people can be paid. And that's what we're after today. Easy solutions in order to pay people as quickly as possible. And then we can look for a system for the future.
The audience here in Ottawa again. Do we have any questions? Oh, we have one here in the corner.
Yeah, I'm kind of just wondering why we're not doing some kind of rolling strike or something, because quite frankly, 2 years of buttons has done nothing. And if it's a legal issue that's stopping us, well, it's not exactly legal for us to not get paid, so.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you for that question, because literally everywhere I've been in the country, this is on our members' minds. Yes, you're quite right. It is a legal issue, but it's not just a legal issue for us, the union. It's a legal issue for our members. And unfortunately, if you participate in an illegal strike activity or job action that isn't, sanctioned through the legislation, then our members could be fined and they could be disciplined up to termination. And obviously, that's not a risk we're willing to take. We have had a number of demonstrations, at the noon hour to try to bring attention to this issue. But like I said earlier, we know that you've already spent a lot of your precious time trying to fix your pay problems. And we know that you expect us to go the extra distance. And so you're quite right that you don't always see all the pressure we're putting on and all the effect we're having, but we see it. And we move this government to use our solution. We are moving this government to use public servants to bring in that solution. And right now, we're trying to get them to do it as quickly as possible through the kind of influence that we can bring as your representatives, as your spokespeople. And rest assured, there's a lot going on in the background to try to mitigate this for members and to try to make things okay for them in the future. And we're just going to keep fighting that good fight for you.
Very good. Andrew, do you have another question for us?
Good afternoon. Greg Scriver, NCR Director, Chair of the NCR Region. First of all, thank you, Debbie and Eddie, for organizing and all the people that organized this important event for our members. And for, of course, putting it on Facebook so that all members across Canada. It's a somewhat similar question in regards to legal, because we're getting this question quite a bit, and it's also on social media. And I wonder if you could explain the rationale as to why we cannot sue the government. you know, over this Phoenix. There is a class action lawsuit right now that is being formed for non-government workers, and I think that's the importance there as to why, but I think it's important that if you were to explain to everybody as to why, you know, we can't sue them and why individual public servants really can't sue over the Phoenix issue. Thank you.
Yeah, that's probably the second most frequent question I get when traveling around the country, so thank you for that as well. For all intents and purposes, we are suing the government. We are taking legal action through the mechanisms we have available, which in our case are through grievances. And it doesn't sound nearly as all powerful as, you know, taking class action lawsuits, but grievances actually can be mitigated a lot more quickly. We have a lot more flexibility within the grievance system to negotiate solutions that work for our members, to get to a negotiated solution versus one that will be imposed by courts that maybe can't understand the impact that this is having. And so we feel quite confident that the avenue available to us will provide us with a mechanism to get at fair compensation for our members a lot more quickly than would be had through a class action lawsuit. But that being said, we're not eligible to be part of a class action because we have legislation. Unionized workers, not just in the public service, have legislation that provides them another mechanism to challenge things like this. And although we never could have foreseen something like Phoenix, we are managing to use those avenues to access fair compensation for our members who are experiencing Phoenix issues. So, you know, you can't form part of that class, but don't fret because we've got something better going on here for you, in my view.
Thanks, Debbie. Questions? Right here? Sorry, Peter, I'll get to you in a second. We've got
Tricia Williams. So we're going through the Phoenix pain still, and I wondered if there's an ETA when the bulk of the cases would be taken care of. And the secondary question is, once we're done fighting the Phoenix fight, are we really going to go hardcore after contracting out? Because this has caused absolute chaos in the government.
Okay, so on the first question, no, we don't know when the end of this fiasco will be. We certainly know that PSPC has had some kind of shifting timeline for the entire 2 years, and it's been virtually impossible to get an accurate picture of what's actually going on and how long it will take to get through this backlog, which is why, you know, we've focused a lot of our attention on making sure that there's a system that can get people paid properly, you know, and can get through this backlog a little more quickly. Your second question?
contracting out.
Oh, I would say that from day one, contracting out has been a centralized part of our messaging against Phoenix. And if there is one silver lining on this terrible storm cloud called Phoenix, it's that we've been able to highlight very clearly to government decision makers and to members of parliament what can go wrong when contracting out is abused. And Phoenix is a classic example, but it's not alone. Email amalgamation, email centralization, the website amalgamation, and we fear the upcoming cloud adoption strategy will all find their way down the same path as Phoenix, where a private sector is in charge from inception right through to maintenance of a system and doesn't do the proper exchange it needs to do with the public servants that work on that system or maintain it.
I would simply add that the campaign we have to make sure that we're in the driver's seat and our professional opinions are valued feeds into a contracting out campaign as well. Because as we demonstrate that we have the expertise, we have the talent in-house, that makes the argument that contracting out is unnecessary and overly expensive.
For sure, and at $1 billion, that's not very hard to demonstrate.
We have a question over here.
Thank you. My name is Peter Gabriel, and I work at PSPC in the acquisition branch where the system was purchased through. And just to put a little bit of context behind this, in the previous pay system, we had heavy infrastructure backing up that previous pay system. We had regional offices, departmental offices, we had actual pay advisors, compensation advisors. Right where I work, you had a pay issue, You went down to the second floor and it was dealt with like that. When the Harper government got rid of that system, well, he also got rid of all the regional pay offices. He closed them down. And now we have Phoenix with very little infrastructure. So my question to you is, how much labor, human resources are we going to need really to back this up? Because we have studied this at PSPC. We're going to spend another $16 million studying this in acquisitions. And any pay system requires a lot of backbone, a lot of human resources, people, just not CSs to build it, but also HR people, pay advisors. So how much do you anticipate the labor element is going to back up a new PIPS developed system?
You know, you're quite right. The compensation advisor capacity needs to be put back in departments. That's clear to us. It's been a major ask for quite some time. And it now looks like the government's actually moving in that direction. They've started some pods in Miramichi that are looking after specific departments. And a number of departments have re-stood up compensation units inside of their department. And where they've done that, it's gone a lot better. But how many, I'm not sure, but I figure it's at least the number of people that used to support pay systems. And of course, in terms of our own members, well, we believe that we've got the aptitudes on hand already. We're not advocating for the hiring of some new group of IT professionals. These are the people who built and maintained the old regional pay system for 40 years. And so we feel pretty confident that those same people will have a lot of luck when trying to bring in a new technology that can get people paid. And, you know, of course, we understand that we're going to have to partner with the private sector to bring in technology into government, but it really has to be a project led and delivered by public servants.
We have time for one more very quick question. I have Andrea back there.
Thank you. My name is Wahid Khan. I'm a proud public servant and a proud steward of PIPS. The important thing is not only what we are dealing with right now, but what led us here. Perhaps nothing compares with Phoenix in terms of things going wrong, but the employer's obligation to consult with the unions has been neglected for a very long time. My question to you is, how do we make sure that when they are designing the new system or even exploring, unions are truly and meaningfully consulted? And this is not just the only one, because there are so many other changes that took place without consultation, without meaningful consultation, which has increased the administrative burden on all public servants who are interested in serving Canadians with excellence. But all these changes, whether it's travel system, parking policy, Workplace 2.0, and Phoenix, they are creating a lot of issues.
And your question, Wahid?
So my question is, how are we making sure that we will be consulted as a union when decisions are made?
Thank you.
So, you know, as I mentioned earlier, we didn't get the chance to be proactive on this project, but I can assure you we've been extremely reactive. We've been at the table from the very start, sitting with the heads of PSPC, Treasury Board, CRA's been at the table, and we're working with government to try to find these solutions. Of course, we wish that they would move more quickly. Of course, we wish that they would be more open about and sort of paint a more accurate picture about the problems we're facing so that we can contribute to those solutions. But like I said, I think we're where we need to be. We have a seat at the table. We're working in partnership with the Treasury Board, who has the funds to look at the alternative system. I personally have a seat on the Government of Canada Digital Advisory Board, which is the new sort of top of the new governance structure for IT projects, and you can be assured that that this is not going to go under our noses without us knowing about it, and we will be there every step of the way to make sure that our members are properly represented and that they're part of the solution.
Okay.
Thank you. So I see that our time is almost up by the little cards in front here. We've had a lot of great questions today, and I hope that I was able to paint you an accurate picture of where we are at on this critical issue. I rely on these exchanges to shape the directions we take. Je vous remercie encore d'être venu.
Thank you for being here today, for your excellent participation, and for the ideas that you have shared with us. It is always a pleasure for me to meet the members through events such as this one.
Reminder, you can help our campaign today by sending an email to the Working Group on Phoenix, visiting our website, action.pips.ca/Phoenix. Tell them we need our pay fix now, not 6 years from now. Eddie, over to you for the last words before we all go back to work.
Thank you, Debbie. Malheureusement, c'est tout.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank all of you who came out to be with us for this, our first Facebook Live Town Hall. I hope you all found it useful and informative. We look forward to your comments.
Or visit us online. Merci beaucoup et bonne journée. Thank you very much and have a good day.
I would just ask everybody to bring their translation device.